Welcome back. Now to tell us what the international desk has for us in the coming week, we're joined by SABC News International Reporter Khayelihle Khumalo. The Sudan story this week has been absolutely devastating, watching those images come out of Sudan. Of course, the solidarity movement building up towards putting pressure on auxiliary and ancillary states such as United Arab Emirates, who have been allegedly arming the rapid support forces in Sudan. Talk to us what's been happening there and where we currently are.
Well, obviously, Oliver, very horrific images coming out of Al-Shafa in Sudan, but also speaking to those atrocities, there has been a global condemnation from the United Nations, right here in South Africa, the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, talking about the hostilities that still exist there, but also talking about the civilians who are really caught up in this conflict that has been going on since 2023, but also South Africa emphasizing that it's all about going back to the African Union in ensuring that the mediation continues, especially because, I mean, this is one of the greatest tragedies. Over 12 million civilians or people are displaced in Sudan, but also the concern around the humanitarian aid, especially, Oliver, when you look at Al-Shafa, where it's been blocked by RSF.
Yeah, my goodness. Incredibly sad situation there. Tanzania, also quite worrying. Very little actual media reportage and coverage coming out of Tanzania. So a number of the deaths and injuries are not yet quite confirmed, given, of course, that the internet this week had been cut off, or at least social media platforms had been cut off in Tanzania following the polls there. What's actually happening? What are you hearing on the ground?
Well, this has been a very major challenge, Oliver. The issue of the internet connectivity has been blocked by the authorities, but also we've seen the people protesting, very unprecedented demonstrations. Just the people also showing their displeasure with how these elections were conducted, but also we've heard from President Hassan, where she gave her own acceptance speech, labeling these people protesting as very unpatriotic, but a very concerning situation, Oliver, especially because Tanzania has always been lauded as a very stable state, as a very key country in East Africa. So with all these issues being brought to the fore.
Yeah, well, that wasn't the only election that took place. Cameroon has its own fair share of electoral violence taking place now following the re-election of Paul Biya. What do we know about Cameroon?
Well, that's right, Oliver. Another very concerning situation. We saw the statement from the African Union Commission congratulating President Biya. I mean, the oldest statesman in the world, 92 years old, but also continuing to stay in power and essentially just highlighting the major concern about these elections that have been conducted, but also others are saying it's a mockery of democracy where you continue to have these elections, but also at times not really reflecting the will of the people, because the people they've taken to the streets. We've seen also the opposition leaders being harassed, being jailed, and also they will continue, you know, some of these opposition leaders really just raising these concerns.
Yeah, it's 20 days just about, right, till G20 and the heads of state descent on Johannesburg. Are we ready?
Well, very much so, Oliver. We've seen President Ramaphosa going to so many parts of the world, extending the invite. We saw him in Southeast Asia, and recently we saw him in Switzerland, really just saying that South Africa is ready for this G20, especially now where also, Oliver, you have the geopolitical tension unfolding. So South Africa is really thrust into the global spotlight, and really it must really lead in terms of the global cooperation in dealing with so many issues, you know, the instability, the issues around the tariffs, and many other concerns as well.
Yeah, and of course, we're seeing a lot of these G20 working groups wrapping up their work. In fact, I think the last was the Empowerment Women's Working Group that had their technical meetings wrapped up this past week. What are you hearing out of the Sherpa's office, which is Zane Dango, around the statement, the consolidated leader statement coming together, and what the resolutions are that the heads of state will have to consider?
I think there's a great deal of satisfaction with how the tracks they've conducted these meetings. I mean, obviously, there will be certain areas where there's no consensus, especially because when you look at how G20 works, it's based on consensus.
In fact, I think it was in the in the education track where Argentina decided not to vote along with the statement?
Well, that's going to be a major concern, especially because, Oliver, we know that once the leaders are meeting in Johannesburg, there'll be a declaration, and also we previously saw in Brazil as well, there'll be those issues where countries really don't see eye to eye, especially because, I mean, these are diverse economies with their own national interest that they do pursue.
Yeah. Speaking of multilateralism, ECOWAS turning 50.
Quite a milestone, especially because when you look at West Africa, Oliver, I mean, this is a region that has seen worse conflicts. I mean, you think about Liberia, you think about Sierra Leone, but also Cote d'Ivoire as well. So there's quite a lot to take into account, but also you've seen the unconstitutional changes of government in so many countries there, but also you've seen also the likes of Niger also pulling out, also Mali. So really just showing that there's quite a lot to be done in terms of making sure that they solidify, but also in terms of the integration, economically, politically, socially as well. So there's quite a lot to be taken into account in this regard by these, one of the key blocks within the African Union.
Yeah. Kaya, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. Busy week ahead for you. So all the best. I hope you get some rest in between all of that.